no two men do it alike. You know, I once knew a man who kept his hat on until he was completely undressed. Yes, now he made it very long. And a pig's eye, you will. Hey, listen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Movie Snob. Thanks for joining us, guys. I am joined by not one, but two lovely ladies today, and they both agreed willingly to be on the show, just for the record. To my left is Miss Mariah.
Hi.
And to her left is Miss Rebecca.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So excited.
We're going to talk about the movie in a second, but first we're going to give a little intro. What are your most watched movies? We'll make you do 5. We won't do the full 10. But what would you say? So they have a flavor of like where you're at, because I think you're in our small conversations. You're a little snobbier than the average bear. I just will say that.
I think it's probably true.
I would even say you're probably snobbier than me pre-show. Because I'm a little snobbier now because this is season 3, so I've had a little bit of experience now. But
time.
But the little we've chatted, you're like blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, I had to look that up, and you did not. Okay,
Nice.
so let's give us your
it.
top 5 favorite movies. It doesn't have to be a snobby list, just like your faves.
Okay, I'm purely going on what comes to my mind.
Ooh,
so
I
like
love
we're
it.
going with this.
Perfect.
So Bringing Up Baby, because Hepburn is like amazing in that movie. Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Oh wow. Okay,
Problematic now, but like
Sure.
very good in the
Minus
moment.
Mr. Yunioshi.
Yeah. You
know.
have some parts that
Like-
maybe don't play as well.
Not great. Clueless.
Nice. Finally, some 90s in
Yeah,
here. There
gotta
we
go 90s. Lord of the Rings.
Ooh.
Fellowship.
Okay, Fellowship. Okay, there
Gotta
we
be
go.
Fellowship.
I'd agree with that
Yeah,
one.
I agree too.
And
Return of the King. They just got the
Yeah.
It was just like a thanks
It
for
was a
working so
hand-
hard
Thank you
on
for
the other
tying
ones.
it
Yeah.
together.
yeah. Thank you for
finishing up.
completing this.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go last one, which has been like a favorite since I was little, which is Titanic. Like,
Whoa.
love
Okay,
it.
that would be the stereotypical our age
Yes.
chick flick.
Very much so.
Overseen, overwatched, not underrated at all.
No.
No, you don't go walk
underrated.
back and watch that and go,
No.
ooh.
Yeah, like, you're not like, oh, this is a song. That's so I appreciate that pick. That's a very I like the honesty of that pick.
Yeah,
'Cause that's, yeah. It doesn't
It's
give you the
slightly
clout of Bringing Up Baby
trashy.
and some of the other ones, but yes, I do like.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's still Leo. It's still like, yeah.
yeah.
So they're still amazing. And Kate Winslet, it was big for a reason. I saw it twice or 3 times in theater myself. I can't be.
I saw it in the theater in Hawaii.
Oh.
Because that's the best thing you're doing, huh? You gotta see movies in Hawaii. You're snobbier than I am.
Yeah, I
Way
bawled
to
my
go.
eyes out.
Really?
I love that.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the highlights of my life was getting to see Lord of the Rings Fellowship in New Zealand
Oh
at
my
one of the
God.
theaters.
That's dope.
So,
That's legit.
like, I think that solidified it for
That
my
would
experience because
certainly-
I was like, oh my God,
That's
this is
really
incredible.
good.
That's branded on your brain
Yeah.
forever.
That's really good. Okay, guys, we have a doozy. Folks, we've done kind of popular rom-com-y stuff more this season than any of the other seasons maybe combined. And it's not like we're picking bad movies. This is the crazy part about it. But the romantic comedy, which it wasn't called a romantic comedy back then at all.
Screwball comedy.
Was it even called screwball comedy? Yeah, we'll get to that. Sure. You're jumping the proverbial but these things are kind of post-date the movie we're about to talk about. The movie we talk about is kind of laying the groundwork for a lot of this. It's also pre-Hays Code, but it's not that scandalous actually. I
It's
literally
really
thought
not.
it was post because of the stuff that was
Yeah.
not going on, to be honest. We have one of the most massive stars in the history of film. Hands down, Mr. Clark Gable.
2 of them.
Come on. This is my argument to that. I did not know who she was.
Oh.
Colbert and her eyebrows alone
No,
just like
again,
go through the
I
generations.
read-
Yeah.
I recognize the eyebrows and the look, but if I can't think of the names, she doesn't compare to Clark Gable, guys. Let's just be real. It's not in the same conversation. It's not. And I get it. She's amazing. And we'll talk about whether or not she, deserves certain accolades she got. But we'll talk about that later. But Clark Gable's the man. He's the one that he was the star. He's the perennial star throughout the ages. And probably not just because of this movie. I mean, there's a couple other little movies.
Just a few.
A couple others that he did. That were
Minor
okay.
details.
Mattering.
But this is the only one he got hardware for. This is
true.
the only one. Folks,
It's
we haven't
true.
talked about this movie yet, but if you haven't guessed it, Mariah, what movie are we talking about?
It happened one night.
Oh, 1934, Frank Capra's It Happened One Night, starring the Clark Gable and the Claudette Colbert.
Claudette.
She's very French. I mess
He
it
does
up.
this
Every
Okay.
time. Don't get me started about Buster Keaton. Is it Michael
Buster-
Keaton? No,
Buster
I don't-
Douglas.
Buster Douglas. That's what it was. Guys, this is a romantic comedy, arguably. It's like, when you think about music and you're like, is this rock and roll or grunge or alternative or classic? It depends what year it came out.
It does.
So I do wonder, is this really a rom-com because rom-coms weren't a thing? Because rom-coms are kind of an 80s and 90s thing. I've decided. This is my
the
new
term for sure.
For sure. Before that, it really makes me wonder what this is. It's so interesting how groundbreaking this is and how much it changed things. And that we didn't realize all these things came from this movie.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for us to jump into this movie because there's so many things you're like, what?
Yeah.
That came from this
The
movie?
tropes for this are so
It's
incredible.
insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start out most of our shows when we remember with cold brews and hot takes. So, Rebecca, are you ready for this?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Mariah, I'm gonna make you go first
got
this time.
one.
We don't have Pat to lean on, so we're gonna start with you.
I got one, and it's not very hot as usual, but I have one, and I would just say this is the least racy pre-Hays Code movie.
100%.
That's
Like-
the not hot take.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
The prude hot
I
take.
had it, and then you guys heard you're talking about it already, so I'm like, well,
Well, it's still good though.
it
'cause-
got a
good
lot warmer after that.
Yeah. And before, for sure. And then, and the Hays Code came out the next year or something
It was
crazy.
4 months before.
It's crazy. So this
Yeah.
just predated it. But let's be
Yeah.
real.
If it would have taken
would've
as
been
long
fine.
as most movies
Yeah.
to film, it wouldn't have made it.
Oh, we got to talk about that. There's so many things. Rebecca, do you have your hot take?
Ooh.
I have kind of a.
Don't
yeah.
feel bad if it's not great. Mine are
Yeah.
always terrible. If I have one,
If you have
I
one.
usually don't even bring one to the table.
Sometimes we have someone be like the negative, the try to burn this movie if you can.
Okay,
But
yeah.
then I'm usually something kind of positive, and Mariah's like, this is kind of weird about this.
Yeah, I feel like mine was very similar in the with Mariah's. It's like it's kind of lauded as this last pre-code thing, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you are not what I necessarily expected.
Yeah, I expected some.
I just expected it to be a racier.
Like a topless woman in milk with cats around it.
Yeah,
Not quite that,
similar.
but
Similar. Yeah. What movie was that? They mentioned that in the. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's very non-racy pre-K
It's yeah,
code.
yeah.
My hot take is first hot take was already given. Colbert is not as big of a star as people put it out to be. That's my first hot take. That's my shade I thrown. Okay, the shade is thrown. The other one is dollar for dollar. This is the most efficient, well-made movie in the history of cinema. Holy crap! We have to talk about this.
And the leading lady was paid well,
Oh,
Yeah.
so that was cool.
She was paid 3 times what the guy was paid.
It was the only way to get her to sign on.
It was so great. So there's some fun things
love
about
that.
this.
Yeah, that was a highlight.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about this movie. We have so many fun facts that we're probably just going to sprinkle it through, but we have a lot of very fun facts to go through. This movie is a Frank Capra driven movie.
Which I did not realize upon returning to this because I was introduced to this movie as a child from my grandma.
For sure.
And so I watched it and I was like, wait a minute, Capra did this? What is happening here?
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Pre-war Capra
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
and this is when Capra had the run of everything he did was gold. He was the director. All respects to John Ford, but he was the director of Hollywood. And so this is another one that was arguably the most throwaway, let's just get this done script.
Truly.
And then it killed. So it's a very fun. it's so anti the times too. This isn't the times of big movie sets. We have huge
Show-off
productions.
movies.
You have grand epics. You have
All the dance scenes.
all the dance scenes,
Oh,
all
the
the
numbers.
costumes,
The
all-
synchronized swimming routine.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness! And then here we go, and she shows up as supposedly a rich heiress wearing 2 outfits the entire movie. 2 outfits the entire movie. It's pretty amazing. It's just great
pajamas
filming.
too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
The pajamas. I guess 3.
pajamas too,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
3. It's like awesome that Frank Capra has this skill. He's like, hey, can you do this in 4 months? And he's like, I could probably pull that off.
Probably.
How funny is that? Like, that is like some like next level, like, oh yeah, I'm a good enough director, I can make this happen, with 2 stars who don't want to be here, with no budget, and most of our budget's going to the whiny star the whole time.
Yep. And
This
all the
is like-
rewrites.
This makes Frank Capra on the top 5 directors of all time for just doing this movie. Just for doing this movie and making it work when it shouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so...
and making Columbia good.
Oh, we got to talk about that. So one thing I learned about while doing this research is what the pecking order for studios.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I love this topic.
Because I had no
It's
idea.
so weird.
I had
so
no idea.
weird. I
mean,
love the studio
I
system.
knew
Yeah.
MGM was the behemoth. I knew that. And I knew, and for me, Warner Brothers, I didn't think of them as being the behemoth they were. Also, I always thought them as being more edgy, like the all of the film noir stuff. I always think of like Warner Brothers, right? And then you have RKO, which doesn't exist anymore, so that's why it's harder for us to kind of like relate to it. They were a big one.
They were.
But Columbia, which is still around and still kicking butt, was like the trashy studio. Was like the ghetto
The
trashy.
junk.
I
Yeah.
never thought that. I thought,
had no actors.
oh,
Nope.
They literally
They
said
just borrowed people.
they
They
just borrowed
did.
people.
They borrow and steal
was great.
to get movies made.
Oh, amazing! The one thing they did do that was brilliant was they developed their directors and their producers. Like they kept their
Yes.
people, even though they didn't pay actors, they did keep the talent there. And frankly, they were rewarded with Frank Capra, who just knocked it out of the park from time and time again. Yes. So let's get into this plot. Let's kind of jump into. We'll just do it real quick. Basically, an heiress runs away because she wants to get married to someone their dad doesn't want to get married to.
Well, she already has.
She's already
gotten
married him.
married.
Oh, they're already
He's
married.
getting
he's trying to
annulled.
get an
I've watched this
annulment.
like 2 or 3 times, and I still
I know.
miss that part
I
of the
forgot a couple
marriage.
of times during the movie. I was like, oh yeah, she already.
So why do they
is
have the
married.
marriage scene at the end? Sorry, spoilers alert, guys. Why do they get married at the end then? Because they're already married.
I don't remember.
'Cause they
I
have
think
the
it was like
wedding scene at
supposed
the
to
end.
be like the society wedding because she had
Oh, that's
eloped.
right, because she eloped. That's
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Because she was like,
Yeah.
you didn't want me to marry him, so I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this is the best part about this. As much as I've watched about this movie and researched it this week,
So she's
I
being
forget the
kept-
main basic
So
plot.
she's being kept from her husband by her father.
Oh, which is great. And then, and she slapped.
Weird.
It's crazy. The slap was very.
slap is weird.
It was very like.
It starts off going, oh, how much am I going to have to forgive?
Exactly
Because
right.
this is so old. Like, oh no.
And it's very hard to like. The dad's a good guy, and it's very hard to get that at the beginning because you're like, he slapped her right out,
Yeah.
and so I assumed he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
But I'm like, he's kind of too bumbling and like jovial to be the bad guy. Why do they have her slap? Like that's
It's a
one of those-
weird moment.
Those moments are like, oh, it's still
Yeah.
the 30s.
Yes.
Okay. I got
Same
it,
with
like,
the like jumping off
Yes.
the swimming thing. I was
Oh,
like, oh,
that was so
okay.
great.
Yeah.
Great.
So
We're like
great.
doing this.
Yeah,
Love
and
it.
By the way, her outfit, like that kimono thing that she was like wearing, that was kind of cool. I thought that was that a 30s thing? Anyways,
Yes. Yes,
Sure.
it was.
very cool. So she runs away. She's very clueless about the world, so she jumps on a train where she meets
A train? You mean a bus?
A bus.
A bus.
The
I'm so
Greyhound.
sorry. I'll be honest,
Shout
guys.
out to Greyhound.
Okay,
Maybe we didn't watch the same movie.
okay, you ready for this? So this movie.
1, 2, 3, what you watch?
Trains, planes, and automobiles? What? John Candy? I don't know.
Boats, buses, and
I mean,
Mad
we
Mad
do
World.
start out on a boat, so
You
like
start
you're
out on a
doing
boat.
good.
It's true. It's true.
two. There's 2 things.
They go on to a bus where they meet the hero of the story, or the guy, the protagonist, male, who is a down and out reporter who just got fired and is a little inebriated.
Clark Gable playing drunk is like my favorite Clark Gable.
So he's pretty good. I do like Jimmy Stewart drunk because we just watched Philadelphia Story. So I was thinking, I'm like, ooh, Clark Gable, Jimmy. And that was when Clark Gable was sober in that movie. So that was even funnier. We should show that clip again.
I don't know. Are you?
And then hijinks ensue. She can't figure out how to take care of himself. He realizes who she is, and he kind of takes care of her. They hate each other, and they fall in love, and then they break up the elopement, marriage, annulment. I don't know. So that's kind of the quick one. Sorry, spoilers, guys. That was, but the getting there is gold. The plot is very standard now, but I don't know if it was standard back then.
I don't think it was. Like,
that's what I was trying to figure out.
The way that I watched it, like, it reminds me of like how it really did lay the foundation for like what we think of as like a rom-com and like all of the things that it hits. Because like if you look at other movies from like the 30s, 40s, like they don't do the same things.
Yeah, the antagonistic part.
Like there's not that antagonistic part. There's not the like love-hate thing. Especially with the comedy, so it just kind of all hits in one, and you're like,
standard.
and they're not mixing
everything.
They're not necessarily mixing class either,
right?
It's usually like two high society people or two poor people.
Yeah, it's really not until you get into the later ones with like Philadelphia Story or Bringing Up Baby that you like get that. But even with those, like you see the groundwork that this movie did to make those movies.
That makes sense, yeah. And I was really wondering about that because it's so early. It's 1934. And that's when you start to realize. And, let's just talk about when we watched it again. So you've seen this before, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen this before?
Yes.
So this was my first watching.
Okay.
And I watched it with my wife and her sister. It was the three of us watching it. Thankfully, movie night, we picked it. And so I didn't have to watch it by myself.
Very good.
A lot of these movies, my family is not interested in.
Yeah,
For
same.
some reason, 2001: A Space Odyssey, no one wanted to watch that with me.
Yeah.
Super weird.
I will watch that with
I know
you.
you will, but you again are.
I'm a
even
weirdo,
You are
though.
a snob here.
Yeah, Finn will often check. Is this appropriate enough for me? Yeah, I still don't want to watch
love
it. Okay.
I know. Harper was like, "Are you watching Wizard of Oz?"
Oh,
because
right?
it was
'Cause
black
it
and
feels
white.
black and white.
And
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
so sweet.
"No, I'm sorry, I'm not."
That's so sweet. Oh, that's great. So this movie starts out so early, and it changes the way we look at all things antagonistic. Like I assumed everything was like that. The screwball comedy is the precursor to the rom-com, and this is the precursor to the screwball comedy. This first time they called it screwball comedy was like a year after this came out or something. So this lays the groundwork on so many things. But my initial thought when I watched it was, this is hilarious. This is great. This does not feel like a 90-year-old movie.
No.
It does not play like a 90-year-old movie because it's 2024, folks, in case you were wondering.
Other than the costume design and makeup.
And, of course, some of the limitations of what the cameras could do.
The highbrow.
Oh, man. And it was the first time that look felt like it was still happening now. Because usually when you see like her makeup style with the bob and the hair, I think, that's like silent era Charlie Chaplin type stuff. But this felt like, this feels like this could be 60s.
Oh, totally.
40s, whatever.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it could have been any of these eras. Just that the things that gave it away, of course, was like the.
Well,
but yeah,
Claudette really had like a silent movie look.
She did, which she wasn't.
But
really,
with a great voice.
Exactly right, because she wasn't really a silent movie star. She was hired for her voice, which is a great voice, by the way. I do have to say she has a great voice.
It is a great voice, yeah.
Which is also unusual at the time, too, because you always had these some of these tinny voices and all these, it was a little rough. I mean, Katharine Hepburn comes along, and we have some other nice voices later, but yeah, it really was. She was very nice to listen and watch and feel like, it's modern, but doesn't feel modern. So it almost felt like, if this was made in the 60s, they did a really good job replicating 1930s.
Yeah.
Well, and also I feel like it's a example of she got the Oscar and everyone was like, it's not because she did a good job acting, but I think she did a great job acting. It just didn't look forced or over dramatized. She expressed all the emotions, like you knew what was happening. Like you saw all the subtleties in her face without her like Betty Davising it. Sorry,
Yeah,
Betty.
I know. I
you
was just
wanted it,
thinking
but-
that.
Betty Davis.
I was just
Never
thinking
got. Oh no,
that.
she got it the next year though. They gave her like
That's fine.
They gave you,
She's
and I'm
fine.
sorry. Yeah,
she
she's
made
fine.
out all right.
I just
Although-
think when you like look at like the Oscar winners for actresses
Yeah.
in the 30s, that it's like, oh, you are different.
Yeah, yeah,
and in
yeah.
a really good way. And like you said, it's really unforced. She's just very
Yes.
natural, and you're like going with it, which you don't see
Yeah.
a ton in these
that's
early
true.
Oscar winners.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was
Especially
was
like with the
surprised.
spoiled socialite kind of thing. You get that in that her ignorance to things, but she doesn't act like a whiny, high pitched, typical.
For sure.
Right. There's not the
No.
level of
Right.
entitlement.
Yeah.
It's more just like that unawareness. Like I love the scene
Yeah, she's
when
so
she asks
naive.
the bus driver to be like, I will
Can you
be
wait for
right
me?
back.
Like,
Like,
oh, no,
okay, no, girl, that's not how that
They're
works.
waiting.
But
It's fine.
It's cool. And that's yeah, he played out perfectly. And I was
Or
very
just walks
surprised.
right into the showers.
yes.
Yeah, I was surprised how hard she was to work on the set when I read about it because she seemed so affable on screen. You're like, oh, she's very nice and approachable. And Clark Gable, they were great together.
They were.
Their chemistry was great, and no one knew while they were filming it. No one knew that they were filming that it would look that good. It's just
Yeah.
a crazy thing where
Well, especially when it's two people who didn't care to be in this.
no.
You know,
Right.
it was like, this is just like a quick side job.
Okay, let's talk about the money. So Claudette makes 20 grand a film, and she said, "You can't afford me. You're Columbia. I'm only available for 4 months. No, 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
4
I
weeks.
thought.
4 weeks.
Weeks.
was
1
4
month.
weeks.
1
Yeah,
month. 4
that's
weeks
it.
until I go on vacation. And this is the crazy part. She was just going on vacation. It wasn't like she had a surgery or something or
She
another
needed
movie.
to get on her train tour, okay? That's why she
That's-
almost missed the Oscars, man.
It's so funny to me because I'm like,
So hilarious.
literally, you are doing this because you want to go on vacation more than Megan. It's like you can't even afford me, and that's like. So this is where the story. I've heard two different stories. One said the studio said they'd pay her double. One said that she asked for double, and I'm not sure which one is true. But either way, she got paid $40K for 4 weeks worth of work. And Clark Gable, you guys, they want to take over the story for this one because this one's kind of funny too. Why he's working for Columbia.
So I am vaguely aware of this,
Yes, yes.
but I don't feel like I grasp it.
So
entirely.
the idea was he was being a bad boy on the MGM.
Oh yeah,
set.
because he
Yes.
wanted to try
Yeah,
to
he
start
was in
his
trouble.
own.
and he didn't want to
Production
do,
company.
and he didn't want to use
Yes.
so MGM wanted to like spank him.
Yes.
Is what one of the I don't they can't like confirm it, but it literally was like a cable that
Yeah,
they
he was
said,
under contract
needs
and
a
he tried to
spanking.
do something
Like,
else. Yeah.
He's
So
in trouble. Let's teach
yeah.
him a lesson.
and he needs a good spanking, so he has to take this film. And
We're gonna
it
make
was
him slum it for a while.
$2,000. He got paid $2,000 a week through MGM, and so they loaned him out to Columbia for $2,500. So for $500, they were. It was great, and so he got paid $8,000, and she got paid $40,000.
Good for her.
Right? This is the first time. It's like, hey,
Good
and
for her.
She literally said, like, the only reason I thought this movie was going to be any good is because I figured Clark Gable would get some people to come to the box office.
Yeah.
And she
Right,
thought it
but
was
she
gonna
was so skeptical of the
Yep.
writing.
Yep.
Like
Frank
she and
Capra.
Yeah,
she and
oh.
Capra had worked together in 27 and
And they did not like each
bombed
other.
and
Yeah.
didn't like each other.
Yeah.
So like all of the things.
Oh yeah,
They
she's
came
just
together.
whining the whole time.
Yeah.
apparently. The whole time. That's great.
And despite all of that, they had the great chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
So weird. They just did their thing, and
they
apparently,
just did good.
apparently, like Clark Gable had a good time on set. Like he was super mad to be there, but then he was like kind of happy. Like once
He
started
seemed
doing-
like he was having a
yeah,
He
great
did.
time.
and that's apparently him and Frank Capra like did hit it off, and they had a good time afterwards. But yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the Bonnie and Clyde, where you have Annette Bening who's so hard to work with, and then you have Warren
Not
Beatty.
Annette Bening.
Yeah, not Annette Bening. I'm sorry, Annette
Faye-
Bening.
Faye
I want
Dunaway.
to.
Faye Dunaway.
I want to apologize to Annette Bening. I hear you're wonderful, but Faye Dunaway, I love your work, but you are not easy to work with apparently.
I feel like Gable just has that reputation though.
Yeah,
like
the party guy. The fun
in
guy.
general,
Yeah.
you're just like, okay. You don't sound like you were great to work with. Okay.
Yeah.
You're
And
like a Bogart. It's fine.
it's fine.
Like,
Yeah.
as long as you show up and you're like
That you're
you
just
moderately
charming
performing
on that movie screen.
great.
Good up there.
Like your 50% is better than like everybody else's 100%. So like
Hey.
go forth.
I'll take a 50% George Clooney too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, just
Yeah.
show up, buddy. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Brad Pitt, just stand there, look pretty. You're good. So this movie, no budget, no time. Frank Capra brings it together, rewrite it a bunch of times because it wasn't working. They originally was supposed to be a painter, and they changed him into a hard-working newspaper editor, which was a great change. A painter, that would have been
Very weird.
Very weird. So the nice thing is like the pragmatism of getting stuff done in this, I love so much. This movie, I feel like, should be a class for filmmakers. This is like this is the anti-Kubrick.
It is.
This is the anti. We just did a Stanley Kubrick last week, who's like 17,000 shots just to get the technical thing right.
Oh yeah.
And this is like the opposite. This is like Frank Capra's like, I can do it in a month,
Yeah.
under budget, and half the budget's going to the whiny star.
And it still hits like
it killed.
all of the
It
moments.
killed.
It's like you're like 120 minutes maybe ish. And like every minute is used.
Yeah.
Which is
Oh.
so impressive.
Well used.
And and it's exactly right. It felt not. Maybe that's why I didn't feel like it was from 1934 because the pacing was so good. It felt like a movie, a modern, like a 60s movie because it felt like the pacing was just so much better.
Yeah.
And probably because they didn't have time to.
They didn't have time to change it.
No.
Yeah.
They just had to get through it and get the main points because every minute you're just kind of moving on to the next thing, which is a very modern film thing, but not a 1930.
Not a 1930s thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump into some more fun facts because these I think will help us go through the rest of the story as well because the fun facts kind of really gives us a full picture. So the first fun fact is the amount of hardware it won. We got to talk about the hardware. It got nominated for 5 awards and it won
All of them.
5 awards. The first time that they swept the major categories and
The first
one
of
of only-
3 times.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
only three.
Silence of the Lambs and Cuckoo's Nest.
That's right.
That's right. Filmed in Oregon, folks.
Yeah.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Salem, Oregon, what? So this one was, and apparently at the award ceremony, they were cheering. They were all like,
I love that.
happened one night. So then it didn't, and so they also kind of like erupted. Because it seems like, I was looking through the list of the movies, I recognized like 2 or 3 movies,
Yeah.
and that was it. So it was probably a rough year for
I really loved the fact that Harry Cohn actually pulled Claudette Colbert off a train and
Yes.
was like,
You
get
have to
your
go."
butt to the Oscars
Yeah.
because we're going to win this
Yeah.
So good.
and we got to show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she, again.
You're gonna win.
Oh.
Yeah.
And she finally said thank you. So I wouldn't have this without Frank Capra. So for as horrible as she was to Capra, she at least gave him knowledge on stage. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I acknowledge your you made it happen, baby. So that was legit. So she won Best Actress, which is the most controversial of all the awards, for sure. It got Best Picture or whatever that version of Best Picture is. It's a different name back then.
Yeah.
Clark Gable got Best Actor. His only Best Actor of his career. That's crazy. I read that. I was like,
That
no
is
way.
deeply unsettling to me.
Yeah, it is, but it's also like I totally get it because, and it's so fun because this is such a throwaway role for both of them, and it's the one that they got most decorated for. So I think it's so. It just shows you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. You think you make Saving Private Ryan, then you get beat by stupid
Shakespeare in Love.
You just don't know what's going to happen. Things are dumb.
The Oscars. I love
It's
it.
so bad. And then it also
I
won.
love an upset at the Oscars.
Yes.
So
Yes,
it's
exactly
so fun.
right. So, and then Best Director, of course, for Capra. And what was the last one? Editing or
Screenwriting.
Screenwriting. That's
Yeah.
right. Although, I have
Which
to-
is wild because of all of the rewrites.
which is why. I mean, honestly, though, why not? That's again the pragmatist of the whole situation. Like they're like this. The actors told them it wasn't working, so they rewrote it again. So they're open to even the whiny little actors
Yeah.
not working. So
Yeah.
good on them, just getting stuff done. I
love
think
the
it's so...
Colbert story of her not wanting to do the leg scene, which is like so
that's
popular.
funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so she didn't want to do it, and then they brought in a stunt double that was like a dancer.
Yeah.
I did read that.
And she was like, "That is not my leg. I am going to do this." And I was like,
That's great.
"Okay, girl."
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she wouldn't do any, because they were going to have it more risque for the scene with the walls of Jericho.
Which is why he came up with the walls of
Oh, it's
Jericho, because
very
she was
clever.
not refusing to get undressed.
Very clever. Okay, Ryan, what do you got? What do you got? Some fun facts for us?
We're covering them pretty fast.
I know it's hard because this movie, just like
There's
the movie,
so
we're
many.
going so fast. I got a big one.
Oh, here's another example of why they weren't, or of them not being excited.
Okay.
When Clark Gable showed up for work on the first day, he reportedly said grimly, "Let's get this over with."
I
And
find
he got
that
his Oscar.
so funny though, because they considered his wife Carol Lombard
Yeah.
for the role of Claudette Colbert.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh,
That would've been
okay,
fun.
that would have been fun.
Yeah, that was
And
fun.
Myrna Loy.
And Myrna Loy,
they
yeah.
had some good.
By the way, this is totally not to do with this. I just was talking with Mariah about this, but Carol Lombard died in a plane crash.
She did.
In 1942. She was like the first famous casualty of World War II because it was like a training mission and it went down. I had no idea. I was like, I'm reading the...
You didn't know she was married to Clark Gable.
And I didn't know
either.
she was married to Clark Gable.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's
Yeah.
the thing. You guys are snobbier than me. We've talked about this. This is why we
Oh,
have
I
the
love those
podcast, so
backstories.
I
I
can become
love
snobbier.
I love who they were
So
with.
the
or-
only reason I know this though is I recently listened to a show that was talking about Lucille Ball, who was
yeah.
best friends with Carol Lombard.
Yes.
Who got like her start. And so when she died, like it was
Yes.
such a huge impact for her. And she like would weekly go over to Gable and be like, "Yo, are you okay?
Oh,
like,
that's
can we
cool.
move?
Oh,
like,
that's
are we
cool.
good?" That kind of thing.
That's cool. Way to go, Lucille Ball. I wish your husband didn't cheat on you so much as you did. Sorry. I digress.
Ricky.
Oh, Ricky. So my favorite one, which is, I'm so bummed Pat's not here, because this is my favorite fun fact. The Animator's Corner. I'm taking it over. I'm taking
Yeah,
this over.
I'm gonna
This is
let
my
you have that one. It's a good
favorite
one.
thing about it. In this movie, I'm going to build my way up. One of my favorite parts is, are you just going to eat that carrot raw? I was like, how else I guess you can cook carrots, but that's so funny. Like, that's
It's
so funny.
Like, was that not a thing? You couldn't eat.
Yeah.
carrots?
And
Only
then
raw.
moving backwards, believe you me, that character says to Clark Gable, "Sorry, Doc."
Yes.
And sure enough, guess who came out within 1940 is when they officially called the Warner Brothers cartoon Bugs Bunny. And they 100% say they got their influence from this movie,
Yeah.
that character. And he even talks about someone named Bugs. There's an offhand comment to an imaginary person named Bugs. And so this movie 100% influenced one of the most famous cartoons of all time, from the eating the carrots like Clark Gable to saying, "What's up, Doc?" Comes
Yeah.
straight from this movie. I think that is it's one of my favorite things about this.
It is pretty cool.
And even the mannerisms of Bugs Bunny come from this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, and not to mention all the leg things. So and the thumbs and then the leg has been redone 1,000 times. This is the movie that it came from, by the way.
Totally.
Done just as like they're ad-libbing things for this movie as they rewrite stuff all the time. It's just so great what you can get done in a short amount of time. I just love it so
Yeah.
much.
Just best.
So
use.
that was my favorite fun fact, is the Bugs Bunny connection to this
I
movie.
do love that.
That is my
I do love
favorite
that.
thing.
I think one was that Columbia did not get any money until like the 80s or 90s. This was
What?
like their highest grossing
Yeah.
rom-com
Yeah.
until the 80s.
Till the 80s, yeah.
And
for
I
sure.
was
Oh my
like,
gosh.
Yeah, no, Columbia was that bad of a studio.
it was bad.
Yeah.
They obviously can't write contracts
Nope.
This was
very
their,
well.
Yeah.
Oh, this is their highest grossing film until then.
Until
yeah,
the
sorry.
80s.
I
Yeah.
misheard you. I thought you said like they didn't get any money from this.
No,
until
no,
the
no.
80s.
They
Yeah,
definitely got money from
yeah,
this.
Yeah. This was the highest grossing film until like 84 or
But
something.
it wasn't
Yeah.
until they hit the 1980s and the
Yes.
like rom-com.
Oh, it's crazy.
Bubble.
How bad was Columbia?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Oh, it's amazing they still
not
made
good.
it. But they were a low budget place. Like they do the low budget numbers and they didn't have to make as much. But that was, and it's also great that these two, nobody wanted to work there. You know what else Clark Gable said after he showed up? He said, "You guys hand out coats? Because I heard we were in Siberia." Because they all called it Siberia for being on the Columbia lot.
That's what you get when you start your own production company.
It's great. It's great.
You're
but
being punished.
oh,
it's fine.
it's just so good. So there's so many. Yeah.
I've got one good one.
Hit us. Let's do
The
this.
director makes a cameo in this.
What?
Wait, really?
Frank Capra is the third couplet singer of The Daring Young Man
Oh,
on the
that's
Flying Trapeze.
so great. Great scene, by the way.
I
Just
loved
the dancing, the singing and
The
dancing.
fact that the way people entertain themselves, like on a bus,
Mm-hmm.
or, you know, this is like pre-radio on a bus. And they're, yeah,
Yeah. No, I
people
was.
are playing instruments. And
Yeah, it felt so. Okay, there's a drinking game called When Seth Brings Up Asia. You can drink because every
Take a
podcast
drink.
I bring up Asia. So when I was living in Asia,
here we go.
there we go, drink. That culture of being on a public transportation, which is why I said train, because usually I was on a train and you go to the train station and there'd be the vendors, and then sometimes you get the standing room only, and there'd be people like, hey, so it felt so much like my travels in Asia. That's what it felt so, because I'm like, oh, I've done this.
Yeah.
Because the 30s in America was actually more like other countries. Because now we're such a car culture. We so rarely use public transportation as a majority of the people anymore. When back then,
Yeah.
we still a lot of people did. But the
Well,
best,
and like growing up watching White Christmas, you had this vision of what a train car looks like in your head. It's like everybody's sitting in this cute dining car, and the
Yep.
tables are just so, and you can apparently sing songs and
yeah,
make a whole
All the
skiing
singing,
slope
yeah.
with your napkins. And this is how people ride on a train. Not completely uncomfortable.
oh, it's so great. Yeah, and there's a lot of fun things. I'm like, America was like this. We had this culture, and now I get it. We have the car culture. It's fun to have my own car. It was fun, but there's things I'm like, I wish we had more of this like public transportation.
Or like just being excited when someone rings your doorbell, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
instead of shrinking away in horror and like hiding.
Oh,
Did they leave
is
yet?
that the Amazon package? Okay.
Oh,
we're
yeah.
good. Oh
It's
man.
like me with phone calls. Why are
Yeah.
you calling me?
I know you don't even answer phone calls.
We don't-
Never
yeah.
like answering the door.
Is
please.
this
The
a
door
real
is like
emergency?
really pushing it.
What's
Yeah.
going on? This must be spam. So this movie, it's not on your top 10 list, Mariah.
No.
Was it ever? But Philadelphia Story is. So you do have Philadelphia Story above this.
Absolutely.
And do you still hold that true?
Yeah, I think because the actors, the ensemble of Philadelphia Story is better for me.
I agree with that. I think that Clark Gable in this film is like outstanding. And while I think Claudette Colbert is wonderful and brings like this innocence and magic to her performance, like
Yeah.
it isn't the same level as like the Philadelphia Story or Bringing Up Baby, where you have like a Hepburn or
And so many
Stewart,
great
where
supporting
it's like,
actors too. There's more. There's so many more people that
And they actually
contributed.
wanted
Yeah,
to
in
be
this,
there.
it was just the two
Yeah.
of them. You know, there isn't the cute little sister or
Right.
like
Yeah, exactly
Uncle
right.
Willie or you know, there's not.
And they actually probably wanted to be there as a major
Yeah.
studio, and it felt more. Those felt more like the Ocean 11's cast getting together,
Yes.
and this felt like, oh crap, you're in trouble too. What'd
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
do to get here?
Yeah.
So yeah,
But boy, did they make the most of it. And it's, I mean, I appreciate so much that it is considered like the original rom-com. And
I love that.
it's great.
I love
the
that.
beginning of the slapstick kind
Okay.
of
Screwball.
screwball comedy.
Let's talk about this. I think genre changing films can't be high budget. That's going to be my
Oh.
statement.
That makes
Genre
sense.
change, because
Agreed.
film noir was The Maltese Falcon, which was like basically a one-room shot the entire movie, right? You're basically just in a room, and they're just sitting around
it's so
talking,
good.
and it's the changing film noir.
Yeah.
Like there's like one person that gets shot, maybe,
Yeah.
and then this is low budget, 1 month, yeah, you got a couple of big stars just because they got in trouble and they had nothing. You know,
Like, we got to get this
we gotta
done
get
kind
this
of
done.
thing.
And this is the game changer. And a lot of it was just because timing. The Hays Code came along, so you no longer can, show as much nudity. You can no longer be as double entendres anymore. You got to be completely clean. So this became the literal blueprint for what comedies are going to be from here on forward. So
I wonder
it
how
is
much they
timing.
knew going into that this is coming a few months
According
down
to
the
Frank
line.
Capra's son, they had no clue.
Yeah, I was
They
going to say,
literally were
my
just getting stuff
understanding is
done.
that
They
the
were
Hays
just-
Code was just like,
Finish it. Let's do
It's
this.
just dumb
This-
luck
Yeah.
that they
This
happen
is
to
funny.
be like
Yep.
the most
This'll work.
PG pre-Hays
Yep.
Code
Yeah.
movie ever.
Just practical and good on Claudette. She didn't want any nudity. She's like,
Right.
I didn't, and I don't think it's like because she was completely against it, but she's just like, I don't want
to do it in
I don't
this
want to
movie.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't that she didn't do it ever. She
No, just didn't want to do it in this movie. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was there was no
Little
inkling.
did she know it was her last chance.
Other than there was the part like the walls of Jericho coming down, saying to her
So
dad.
funny.
I thought that was so funny. I'm like,
so funny.
oh, they're talking about the SEX
And the light going off.
And the
at
light
the
going
end.
off.
explicitly. So
Yeah.
like that was the only times I'm like, oh, that's pre-Hays Codes because you
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah, yeah.
really do that 5 years later. So that was kind of like I'm like, oh, because that can make that joke then, but they couldn't make it later because you couldn't make that joke until like. That's the crazy thing about movies. I feel like we never got into the subtle double entendres. We just went to the 80s where it's just like everything's rated R.
I don't know. I feel like if you look at movies like Pillow Talk from the 60s,
True.
like with Doris
Like, yes, 'cause they're
Day,
starting
Rock
to-
Hudson, like
That's true.
that was the one thing that struck me watching this movie again. I was like, oh, this so reminds me of these like 60s comedies that
It
are like,
Where
feels like a
everybody's
60s
doing like
comedy,
the
Yeah.
I'm
walk of
telling you.
shame
Yes.
out of the apartment.
it's like,
and like,
we're kind of talking about
what happened
this.
last night?
Yes.
Not it happened last night.
Exactly.
But what happened last night?
I still think this feels like a 60s.
Oh, it totally does.
And that's the best thing
It's
about it.
definitely that formula.
Yeah.
And this was way before.
It's it's timeless. And I mean, it still feels more 60s than like, 2024, but still, it's still a timeless movie in the fact I would not have known other than the film quality what year this was.
Right.
I wouldn't have a clue. And the big name actors and actresses.
I think her bangs and eyebrows really kind of give it away. Though.
It's
But
true.
what if they actually did it period
But
correct,
if
though?
it was
But
early 90s,
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
if it was
90s,
Drew Barrymore,
like, you could
she
see
didn't
it.
do that. She did look very
Nice.
similar.
Like, I watched this and I was like, oh,
Boys on the Side.
this
Is that the one where she
could
looks-
totally be 90s,
Mad Love.
2000s.
Yeah, for sure.
Doesn't really matter. Like,
It felt more. One of the best reviews I was looking at was it's the least pretentious movie of definitely that year, if not the generation, because
Yeah.
it was just what it was.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I think the pretentiousness and the BS factor we get so turned off on, but this doesn't feel like that at all. And which is so interesting because let's be real, guys. To be a movie snob, pretentiousness is kind of the name of the game. Here's looking at you,
We lean
Stan.
into it
Stanley
a
Kubrick.
little bit.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese, we're looking at you. And don't get me started about that Russian director. Oh my gosh. But this is not pretentious at all. And that almost makes it more snobby. Yeah. It almost makes it like, hey, guess what? I can just make this. And
honestly,
it's
you know what
a
it
good
reminded
movie.
me of? Like 10 Things I Hate About You.
Nice.
Like, there is like an
That's a good one.
underlying pretentiousness because it's coming from like a Shakespeare adaptation, and you're just like, oh, this is kind of
Taming of the
snobby.
Shrew. Which this
Which
actually
this
too.
is loosely based
This is
on.
loosely based.
Taming of the Shrew.
Nice job.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
But like,
Ooh, good one.
it hits
Excellent.
in these like different spots, and you're like, oh, it's still not too snobby.
Yes.
Like, it's
Yes.
relatable, it's funny, it's great. Like, that is the thing that I kept coming back to. I was like, this is the like 10 Things I Hate About You for
Yes.
1930s.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
it's better than 10 Things I Hate
And it
About
is,
You.
yeah.
And I love 10 Things I Hate
That's a good
About
movie.
You. Heath Ledger, man. Yeah. So this movie, timeless, genre changing, under budget, punching beyond its weight class. I mean, you could go on and on. Well directed, problem fixing. There's so many great things to say about it, but you can't but it's still very subtle and it's very understated, which is almost the best thing about it.
I feel it was pretty well shot for a 1934 film too. With,
For sure.
You know, the
Lack of
made it look like they're driving down a lane. Made it you know.
Yeah, as far as rear projection can go, because I mean you're still
Yeah.
stuck with rear projection, which is what. But for a rear projection, it looked pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Look just as
but
good
I'm
as
saying-
Bonnie and Clyde's rear projection,
Yes.
1970s.
True.
Come on now.
That's true.
Also, I love the like practicalness of just filming at a regular bus station with the showers. That felt like I was watching almost
was
like
great.
it was like a little history.
The camp,
And
yeah.
the camp.
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't know what camps were like in the 30s. We didn't know what the bus stations were like in the 30s. We didn't know like so. There's these things that they just had to film mostly practically because they just couldn't afford to build too much. And yeah,
Also, did it strike you how either really expensive or inexpensive certain things were? So he writes that whole telegram to the editor, and it costs
Like
like
$2,
$2
yes.
and 60 some
Yes.
cents. But then he gets a room for the night, and it was $2 and like 10 cents or something. I was like, that telegram
so
was
funny.
Yeah, that was
expensive.
expensive.
No
It is
wonder he
funny.
sent it collect. But
it's crazy. So I
which
was
would have made him extra mad, I would
yeah,
assume.
exactly right. Which is funny because that's a good bit. Hey, remember how much expensive like long distance call cost?
Yeah.
though?
Oh, yeah. Cell
I
phone
love the
calls.
collect call thing
Oh,
on
yeah.
this where he's like, "Oh, the charges are coming to you," and the like editor is like, "Get off the
Yeah.
phone."
If you're fired if you take another one of those.
That's so good.
Do not accept that again.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, it's just things are. I remember hearing, I think it's Paul Azinger, the golfer. The golf clubs cost like $10, and golf gloves cost $5. So he just learned how to golf without a golf glove. Because just like weird things like that. It's just like whatever
Some
was.
things were not
Yeah,
affordable.
there
that-
were not Kirkland golf gloves back then.
Yeah,
Apparently,
they didn't.
they didn't do that. Okay, we haven't done this in a while, but your on the spot review of this movie, 2024 review of this movie. We can't be 1934 review of this movie. This is right now review of this movie. I can start if you guys want me to. I haven't thought about it, but I can. You know me. I just talk and think.
Yeah,
until
go
things
ahead.
happen.
Ramble away. We'll come up with ours.
It Happened One Night is one of the timeless classics that changed the genre of screwball comedy and in turn romantic comedies. It is still as enjoyable today as it was back then, and it will continue to live on for a ridiculous for how it. Oh no, okay, that's too much. And I should stop there. Stop. The way it took.
You're not going to.
No, I'm not going to. So I'm gonna stop there. That's the review, and then the other part is for taking 4 weeks to make. What other movie is as good as this in such a short time period? I dare say none, sir, madame.
I would agree.
Yeah, that was not very good, but that was.
You're
the
not
gist.
wrong though.
Yeah, those are my.
I said that. Everyone remember. I just said
I know
Seth was not
that
wrong.
will change for the next movie review, folks.
For
This
sure.
is gonna be a short-lived thing. Okay, what do you got? Who wants to go?
You ready?
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, the thing is, like, you look back on it and it really does set the stage for, like, every rom-com that we have ever seen.
Yes,
And
and half the cartoons.
yeah.
Yeah.
Half the cartoons.
And it's like, okay, so I see where this groundwork was laid. And, like, here are the various iterations on this. And, like, everything keeps getting better. But, like, it unlocked something
Yes.
within Hollywood
Ooh, good.
that I think is almost impossible to replicate.
Well, and it was so fresh for the time too that
Exactly.
it got Best Picture.
Yeah.
It was outside of the.
Right. It just
Typical.
hit so right in so many ways. In a way that it's like lightning in a bottle. Like, you genuinely would not expect any of these characteristics to work, but
Yeah.
like they all work so
They
well.
all work so good.
And it hits so good.
Perfect. That's great.
And you just don't see that even in like 2024. Like,
Because it feels tired now.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel fresh. Or
It's not the fresh,
It
it's
doesn't
not-
feel.
yeah.
It's very hard. For example, last year, the one movie which I adore that felt fresh and real as a romantic movie was the Korean American movie.
I would have known if you hadn't had to just. If you hadn't asked, I could have told you.
Research team's going to get on that, but that was
Past
like
Lives.
Past Lives.
Thank you.
That was like that's one of the freshest
driven me
movies I've
crazy.
seen in a long time. But that's so rare.
It
as
is.
a romantic anything. Oh, just so rare.
Well, and I feel like it's similar in that
Not pretentious.
Yeah, it's not pretentious, and it feels like you could have. I mean, it's a little exaggerated in the banter, but you have those dynamics with
Sure,
people
sure.
where it's like some people develop, relationships based on like mutual dislike that turns into, like, oh, this person's actually
Lovers
growing
to
on
enemies.
me. Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
the Bickersons meet, and
That's
they
right.
fall in love. Happens.
See, babe, it's cool when we fight.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong. Look at these guys.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say before we wrap this up? Because I think this movie...
I am really curious on like if you were to make this in 2024,
Ooh, recast?
who would you recast?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Because,
for bringing the
like,
recast. Oh, thank you for the
I
recast.
genuinely
I'm so
had
glad
struggles
you
with
brought
this.
up. This is
So-
a great one. Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. So, recast 2024. We got to have the Clark Gable type. Mm-hmm. Now, it's hard because, you got to think Clark Gable that pulls it off. But it's Clark Gable with a little bit of edge, which is nice.
You need charisma.
And then you have the Claudia Colbert, the understated, still with an edge, standoffish, but yet still likable. That's a hard thing to do, and I have to give her credit. I don't know if she deserved the Oscar, but I still got to give her credit. She was perfect for this role. I think I have some kooky other characters. Like I'd have like basically the bus driver stuff. That'd be a fun. Like I'd just take the Coen Brothers characters, like everyone they've cast basically, and just throw it in there. Like John
Leguizamo?
Leguizamo, he'd be in there somewhere. I'd throw all those. So who's your leading man? Okay, do you have it, Rebecca? Who you would say?
I do.
Okay, go for it. You go
so
first.
my leading man, if I were to recast this today, would be Andrew Scott. Like, he's got the charisma. He's got a little bit of villain in him.
A lot of villain in him. He's freaking a bad guy in Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock, yeah.
I can't not see him as Moriarty.
I know, right? But like,
that's
if you
funny.
have seen him in
Fleabag.
Fleabag, thank you.
Oh, there we go.
Like the Bad Priest.
Yes.
Like he's so good,
Yeah.
and he's got that like
So charming.
perfect amount of
Really?
charming edge that
Okay.
you're like, I am here for this.
Yes.
So he is my
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That is, I mean, I can't not see him as a bad guy, so that's my only hang up. But I like that. That's
Yeah.
a very solid pick.
Thank you.
Okay. Are you going to go actor?
I don't know if it's like because I'm thinking remake of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but
Please do.
but Robert Downey Jr. also just like
RDJ.
the charming.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dope.
But it's also like more early aughts, 90s.
I know. I'm
How old
so
are the people
bad.
supposed to be? I keep always wanting
I
to
can
like cast someone
recast
from the
in
90s.
but I have a hard time casting in
So
2024.
I have
We
a
just not get out of
2024
that
one
depth.
too. Like if I were going to do it with like the 2024 star, it would be like Barry Keoghan. Like
Oh yeah.
he's got this like charisma, charm, not totally
And I didn't
conventional.
think he was charming until Saltburn.
exactly.
I was like, no.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
but we'd also
Yes.
seen him in what's
He
the
was so
Irish
sad
one?
in he kills himself now. He's so sad.
He was in Masters of the Air though with
I'm not gonna lie though.
Apple
with
the
Elvis.
movie, I was so angry at Master of the Air being not as good as it should have been.
It
but I'm
really
not gonna lie.
wasn't.
He was. You're right,
I'm
though.
with you there.
His character was one of the more likable characters.
Yes.
I will give you that. I was a little mad at Austin Butler because his role kind of sucked. And I love you, Austin Butler. I think you could have got the Oscar for Elvis, even though Tom Hanks, did a horrible job.
Yeah.
But that Masters of Air, I was just so mad at that I can't.
Yeah, no, I
get it,
totally
get
get
it.
that, but
Yeah.
I like see him in that, and
That's a
I'm
good one,
like,
though.
you have this like charming, unconventional way about you
Right.
that like I think you need for like a Gable like role.
So, I'm
And you
a little,
couldn't be textbook good looking
Exactly.
either. You have
But-
to have something.
But Gable was textbook good looking. That's what I
he was
remember.
kind of goofy.
He wasn't though.
He wasn't?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Really?
good looking.
He is
but
good
he's-
looking.
But he had so much
I-
character. He had the ears. He had the.
It's
I
the
put him with
charisma.
Clooney.
Yeah.
I put him with really. I put him with the Bond.
I think he's more like Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
No.
Like no, I totally
Like,
agree
yes,
with that.
good looking, but also
Yeah.
caricature.
I'm like compared to
Good
like a
looking.
Bogart
Stop
or
it. Bogart's better looking than Clark Gable? Mm-hmm. Stop it right now.
Yeah.
No, Bogart's weird looking.
Depends on how old he is.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
yeah,
true. I'm used to
young
old Bogart.
Bogart.
Fast,
Oh my goodness! This is guys. This is mind blowing. Bogart's better looking than Clark Gable. I am so surprised.
Sorry.
Clark Gable was like, remember in 1920s in Wings? Clark Gable was way better looking than anyone else on the screen.
I'm not saying that he's not good looking.
Oh my goodness!
Gable
I am
is
having
like
trouble with this, guys.
charming as all get out. As my grandmother would describe it, she would put his boots under her bed.
Oh, that's hilarious! Your grandma is funny.
Honesty.
Oh, that's so good.
But like, yeah, he's not conventional
Yeah.
in a way
That's what
that
I
you would
say.
like
He's
think
not
of a male rom-com star.
Yeah.
You ready for this hard thing about this wrong? Because I keep thinking if we cast someone more present day, it feels like all the rom-coms that they've all been in, like a Matthew McConaughey, or a because I liked him in some of his
Or what's
rom-coms.
the
Like
new?
I like Matthew McConaughey.
What's
and
that
like,
Glen
newest
Powell?
rom? Yeah, that's that
Literally
haven't
considered
seen that
this.
one.
I was like,
I haven't
is
seen
this a
it, but-
Glen Powell?
guy. Yeah.
oh, that's so good.
2024.
I
That's
haven't. I don't know if I
so
can. I
good.
think I just am assuming he's a bad actor.
That's
Having
so
such a hard
funny.
time, like, and he's just
That's
too
why I went
good
with
looking.
Barry.
He's
Yeah.
too good looking.
Yeah,
Really?
he's too much.
Yeah.
Don't like.
So
No, thank you.
so would this be more like a? I'm having trouble then. Would this is so?
But
Keanu,
I could put Sydney Sweeney in it though.
I was
Okay.
just gonna say that.
Okay.
Thank you
She
for
would work. You
validating
would
me.
So funny. I feel like I know nothing right now. I feel
love
like
her.
I no
She
longer
would be so
can
good.
contribute.
She'd
Okay.
be great.
I'm not even gonna make a guess because I was like, I'd throw like Hugh Jackman in there or something. Like I'd have like, I'm just not. I don't know if I'm in the same ball game right now. If Cary Grant's not like the sex idol of the era, then I'm
He
confused.
is.
Okay,
He's just,
I'm
I
just
just
so
don't think he's
confused. Okay.
textbook.
So let's go with the female. Who's gonna be the female? I think she's a little more subtle to cast. Who's gonna be your leading lady?
I had trouble with this one. So Sydney Sweeney did come to mind when I was thinking like a Barry Keoghan 2024, very classic like rom-com.
Sure.
My other would be Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Again, Fleabags, Enter Scott. The chemistry is really great.
Yeah, bring them back. That
Bring
show
them back
wasn't long
together.
enough.
That's so good.
My only problem with her is like Colbert has this like naivety
Yeah,
to
and
her
she doesn't. Yeah.
that is really hard to capture.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't think Phoebe Waller-Bridge does that. I think Sydney Sweeney does a better job of that, but like that part for me was a harder. Like, you have like these layers to you
Yeah.
that I want to give you as an actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got two crazy, like Natalie Portman was one.
I
older.
thought about her too.
And
Yeah.
then Zendaya, more modern. Because Zendaya can kind of do whatever she wants.
Whatever she wants.
And like, she can be that cutesy, like, female in a big action movie. or she
Honestly,
can be
give
like,
me Zendaya as Clark Gable and Sydney Sweeney as Claudette Colbert, and we are
it'd be fine.
good.
Good to go.
Made 'em out.
So and that's the hard thing too, like getting that like subtle. I mean, you throw Emily Blunt in there.
Oh yeah,
thought
she
she'd
would
be
I
be
would
great.
kind of say Naomi Watts.
Oh, that's a
Kinda
good
has
one.
that
That's
Ooh,
a
same
good
yeah,
one.
that is a good
Yeah,
one.
that's a
Yeah,
good one,
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
But then we're going back to the 90s.
Then we go to the 90s, and it's easier for me.
Yeah.
That'd
Yeah.
be way easier. I mean, I think Brad Pitt would still be fine because he's kind of got that smart aleck thing to him, like not like old Brad Pitt, but like right around Ocean's 11 Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Like not quite young Brad Pitt, where he's
I could also see
Vince
like an
Vaughn.
Ewan
Yeah.
McGregor
Oh, yeah, he'd be
kind of
great.
thing that it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you hit that 90s spot.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it. Love that. Yeah.
that's kind of fun. Okay, that's a good one. I love that recast, and I hate it at the same time. It's so hard. Guys, this movie is one of the best of all time.
It's
Do we all
pretty-
agree?
It's pretty good.
Is it snobby?
I think being quote unquote the original,
Yes.
it makes
I
it
agree.
snobby.
I agree.
I also think because one, it's the 30s.
100%.
And it won the Big 5
Mm-hmm.
Oscars for the first time. Like,
And it wasn't a typical blockbuster
it
movie.
feels a little bit more out of touch than you think it would.
Yes.
I was talking to friends about this, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "No. Like, it's really the like OG rom-coms.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
this is what you need to watch. But
Oh gosh, you could totally cast this with. You could totally just steal Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone.
ooh, that would be
You
good.
literally could
yeah,
use
yeah,
them.
yeah.
And
That'd
they'd
be
just
cute.
be like another reunion of their movies, and I'd still watch it because it'd be amazing.
I could also see like a Ryan Reynolds, Emma Stone kind of thing.
I don't know because what makes Gosling a better mix with Stone is he's so Canadian. I know Ryan Reynolds is too.
He's
right?
too Canadian for this.
But he's Ryan. He has to be funny.
He
And
does, but
Emma
like,
Stone.
We just lost our
I
lighting.
just lost my
We
light.
did.
I didn't find it. So, guys, you know what that means? It's time to wrap up.
The light is telling us.
light
is
it's time
telling
to
us.
sign
But
up.
like Ryan Reynolds in like his Welcome to Wrexham like
Sure.
football mode.
But
So good.
Then you don't get as Emma Stone's not as funny though because I think Ryan Reynolds outshines her. Like that's why I don't like it because I like Emma Stone so much. So I that's why I don't think I don't think it'd pair nice.
Okay.
I think it'd be the same. They do the same thing pretty well because Ryan Gosling can kind of be like the laid back here, and then Emma Stone's like the crazy one because she
That's
does
true.
crazy really good.
Yeah,
and
she
so,
does.
so you have two crazies. I'm like I don't know if that works.
Yeah, she does naive really good.
She does that.
She
really good,
does.
too, so
Yeah.
yeah, she can play the role. Okay, this has been a
Like
treat,
she has a baby's
guys.
brain in her head or something.
Oh my gosh, stop! This
See,
is
this is why I've been
this is the
pestering you.
worst. Oh, it's
This
so
is like my
bad.
favorite
Oh,
thing
it's
to
so
scream
bad.
about.
Okay, guys, this movie is a pretty stinking good for a 90-year-old movie. It changed movies. It was. We can go on and on, but go watch it. It's a must watch. If you pretend
If
to be a
you like
rom-com fan,
rom-coms,
yeah. Even
like-
if you don't, shoot. Like this is just a not pretentious, straightforward,
Just
fun
for the
movie.
musical numbers on the bus.
Exactly right.
It's adorable.
Exactly right. And I just found out that Clark Gable's not apparently he's not classically handsome. I didn't know that. That's the most surprising thing today
okay.
that whole time. Well, okay, whatever. Guys, I'm Seth,
Mariah.
Rebecca.
and we are How to Be a Movie Snob. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next week with a new movie. Keep watching movies, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.